Elliott, President of the Rochester Board of Education. This is Wednesday, April 12th, 2023, and we're here for our public hearing on our budget. And so we'll get started with calling. We have 14 speakers, either in person or on Zoom. And so let me just welcome all of those who are coming to speak on behalf of our 23-24 budget. We appreciate you coming out to share with us some of your suggestions, recommendations, concerns. We appreciate that. We thank you for it. And so we will now begin. So thank you for being here. Our first speaker is Yanina Rivera, and she's in person. Yeah, you can come right up here, Ms. Rivera, to speak. Good evening.
Ms. Rivera, you'll have 3 minutes when you begin.
Thank you. My name is Yanina Yakel Rivera, and I'm a parent of 2 autistic special education scholars at schools 45 and 106. 22% of our RSD students classify as having a disability. In New York State, that is one of the highest rates in any district. The Continuum of Services is a document which outlines what services and educational settings are available in which buildings. This has not been updated to be current. How are we supposed to trust that you want to partner with parents when we have to fight for just basic, correct, and accessible information? The Children's Agenda conducted a parents' poll, mainly from RCSD parents, in March 2023. Only 56% of the parents in Rochester said that their child with a disability had the supports they need to thrive. It took 2.5 years for my youngest to receive an augmentative and alternative communication device, or AAC device, in order to be able to communicate, as he is non-speaking. That same student hasn't had a full-time certified special education teacher in his classroom since October. This is a clear violation of his IEP. This is also a violation of the hope we put into our scholars. We ask them to learn and grow. We ask them to be a part of the Leaders in Me program. Meanwhile, the leaders in the district have not shown up for them. You can change that. You can fully fund the recommendations of the Special Education Advisory Council, who assisted in developing the consent decree. You can provide consistent mandatory professional development for all staff who deal with students with IEPs. You can build the update the continuum of special education services across buildings, resulting in limited student transitions, further program availability, and compliance to the least restrictive environment responsibilities you have. You can fund regular trainings for parents in special education, which is practically non-existent at present. You can prepare and invest in solutions, not suspensions. You can fund restorative practices. You can fund long-term building substitutes in order to provide consistent support to students. You can provide accessible information. You can provide a budget that is transparent and doesn't try to gaslight its students and parents. You can, but really you already should have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. The next speaker, and I may mess this name up, but I apologize, and she's on Zoom, Qutisha Britt.
She is in Zoom. I will let her in.
Thank you.
Ms. Britt, you'll have 3 minutes once you begin.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Qutisha Britt. I am a mother of a 4-year-old who doesn't have behavioral support or problems, but other students in her class does. I'm a parent speaking out for all parents who have children in RCSD who does need services and aren't receiving them, and that's a problem for me because My child has been jumped on 2 times by another student who has behavioral situation, and there's no services are set up to help him, who was sent home every time. That's a problem for me because other students shouldn't have to suffer because these things are going on in the classroom or because the child isn't getting the services they need. The classroom numbers are too big for students to learn and to receive proper services. If there are 2 teachers for every 18 to 19 students, how are they learning? Us as leaders have to do better to save all of our children. So yes, I'm for more mental health services being added to our baby school. If we don't add this to the bill, we will fail our children. Don't throw away our children. They want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Britt. The next speaker is Ms. Whitney Brown, and she's also on Zoom. Welcome, Ms. Brown.
Ms. Brown is in the waiting room. I'd like
Okay.
she is in the room.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
welcome. You have 3 minutes. Thank you for participating in this process.
Okay, thank you for having me. I was wondering about the school lunches. There's no variety in the food that the children can eat, and they can't get a morning breakfast that, you know, they're supposed to have due to buses and stuff being late. My children don't even get a chance to eat breakfast. There's no better food, that the options are like really low. And my thing on that is that the kids need the nutrients that they're supposed to have in order to focus and thrive throughout the day. So that's been an issue with my family. On mental health, I believe that Black students are more inclined to have PTSD due to the racism in classrooms that they experience. They also need outside stimulations. There has not been a field trip for my daughter since 7th grade. She is now in 9th grade, and that's been a problem. Also, as far as like teacher diversity, I wanted to know when will that ever change, because there's a lot of city schools where there's a lot of African American students, and they can't relate all the time to other people because they're not being shown that they have a connection with someone of their same race. And as far as the budget transparency, I just wanted to know if the budget information, why is it not an open source of information? We are like talking about the city students and families, and I want to support the budget with valid purposes. And I wanted to know why is this such a fight? Like why is it such hardness that we have to like get in order to get the budget to correct for, you know, things that we need here for our students. And I thought that the fighting were for the children, and it just seems like it's not. As far as money goes, it's not there. And I also wanted to add that the lottery, the New York State lottery, was supposed to be meant for the students, and I don't know what happened for that. It was supposed to be meant for schools. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Appreciate your input into this process. Our next speaker, also on Zoom, Ms. Tiffany Howard. All right, we'll come back to her when she comes into the room. So the next speaker is Catherine Baruth. Welcome, and she's in person. Thank you for participating in this process.
Ms. Baruth, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners and other attendees. Parents are partners belonging at every decision-making table and the most important decision makers in this city when it comes to where their children get their education. When you don't include them, They have and will continue to take their talents and those of their children elsewhere. Social emotional learning and appropriate mental health for students is a requirement to healing this district. We are also here because 2% math proficiency and 6% ELA proficiency scores for K-8 students, and only 60% for those same students to be on track to graduate as freshmen, should have everyone here in a complete panic. These are 3 topics PLAC leaders have chosen to highlight this evening. I am here to talk specifically about RCSD's charter school problem and its apparent lack of response to it in the 23-24 budget draft. There are known programs and resources that keep kids engaged at school, off the streets, and out of trouble. Commissioner Elliott talks about this all the time. I hear you. I would like to commend the administration for adding an additional 38.7% in funding to extracurricular activities, notably at 8 elementary schools. As a parent of a child with disabilities, I struggled to find after-school activities that worked for my son when he was that age. RCSD needs to ensure that these new programs are equitable for all. And while I commend you for starting to add more extracurricular programs, I am disheartened to find cuts to athletics. Giving children reasons to want to be at school and not elsewhere is critical. In this year's budget draft, which is stunningly lacking in detail and in the same much maligned format as last year, there's a notable lack of information on what the district is doing to stop the charter school bleed. Further, at the March 23rd board meeting, an additional $5 million needed to be transferred to charter school fund from the general fund because you under-budgeted last year. I'm concerned that we will be in this position again next year, transferring more funds to combat the exodus. Does the district understand why families are choosing to leave? Have you reached out to parents of families who have left? You have consistently not included parents as decision-making tables, including for this budget. Money must be budgeted to research why families are leaving, or they will continue to show you how they feel by walking away. Extracurricular activities are a nice start, but understanding why families are disengaging and or leaving would be the start of stemming the tide. Money must be allocated to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baruth. We appreciate your input into this process. The next, let me just check to see if Ms. Howard is in the room on Zoom. Thank you. So we'll go down to our next person who's in person, Laura Smith. We'd like to welcome you, Ms. Smith, to this process. Thank you for coming.
Ms. Smith, you'll have 3 minutes.
So, hi, my name is Laura Smith and I'm an RCSD parent. I feel like this year's budget is another missed opportunity to create a transparent, user-friendly document that I can give meaningful feedback on. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I'm concerned that my daughter's school, School 12, doesn't have enough support for English language learners. So I checked on their page in the budget and I see their budget for English language learners is to reduce by 6%. So I went to compare with schools 33 and 17 that run similar programs, but they both have that line blank. So either they spend no money on English language learner support or they have recorded it differently. So I have no meaningful data to provide feedback on that. Likewise, I'm concerned that attendance is a serious issue at many schools throughout the district. So I wanted to provide input on ways to invest in that. But when I review the schools, I find completely inconsistent budget allocations and no ways to click into the document or find out more information. According to the budget document, schools 2, 19, Northwest Junior, Northeast Prep, School Without Walls, and RIA are going to spend nothing on attendance, while East Upper and Edison are going to spend $111,000 and $203,000 respectively. I think we should invest in solutions to get kids into school, but we need to be accurate and transparent on what the money is actually doing and whether it is effective. We must invest as much as we can in social, emotional, and mental health support, and you have been increasing that, which is great. but it isn't easily visible in this budget. When I'm trying to understand it at a school level, I see line items for psychological, for guidance, for social services, and they're very sporadically used and in often cases not used at all. And I don't believe that those supports aren't there. I just think the way that it's constructed isn't allowing me to understand what's happening at a school level. Because to me, the key to the success of investment in the Rock Restorative Program is ensuring that the adult to student ratio allows for meaningful relationship building. A budget that doesn't invest in reducing classroom sizes and increasing qualified supports for students will not be successful in improving outcomes for students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Appreciate that. Thank you for your participation. Next is Rebecca Hetherington. Ms. Hetherington? And you have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hetherington, and I'm the mom of 3 boys in the Rochester City School District. I'm part of the leadership team of the Parent Leadership Advisory Council and a former parent representative on the Finance Committee. Many issues of the 2022-23 budget season related to the format of the budget book, as it was inadequate and lacked clarity. So to open this budget book and immediately see the same format was extremely disappointing, because it's difficult to understand on a very basic level where the scope of programs that are here to stay and the ones that will be expiring due to stimulus funds when the money goes away. It's really difficult to understand. With social emotional learning and appropriate mental health for students that support the community is a requirement to healing the district being so important and seeing where those are. And make no mistake, these programs, staff, resources are going to go away. We will never have this much financial security again. In just one more year, the cuts will come quickly and severely, and the opportunities to help our students recover will be gone. When you make the changes, like moving 4.4 of ELL funding to the special aid fund, for general funding, you are making cuts to those programs that will be difficult to put back later. While the focus to increase academic achievement is noted in the superintendent's letter, and the most recent reported scores of 2% math, 6% ELA for our K-8s, and then somehow 60% of our high school freshmen are somehow on track to graduate on time. The need is clearly immediate, but those changes haven't been made in this document. The priority is to specifically focus on mindful goal setting for before, after, Saturday, and summer school investments into each and every one of our children until they recover academically or absent from this budget and are actually cut where they appear at all. On top of that, when our students have spoken to this board in this room, and many of you have spoken to the importance of interscholastic sports and how important they were to your own academic careers, and it's stressed the importance of that, and then to see a $200,000 cut to those interscholastic sports. And students and families are in need of immediate programs to support this. Parent partnerships in creating this budget and in this district daily are absent. Last year, there was an over-budgeting of what was predicted to be charter schools, and just last month, a check was written because more families left than you even imagined would. In the list of planned parent engagement expansions, at no point are any of those parent-led or parent-focused. And no parents have been asked how we can be part of the solutions.
Thank you, Ms. Hetherington. Appreciate your comments. The next speaker is Nydia Benitez. Ms. Benitez, I believe, is in the room.
So Lydia is actually on Zoom, but this is her translator. So I'm letting Lydia in now, and you will hear from her.
I will try
Okay,
to do my very best. My name is Miriam Perez.
Let me
I have never
speak,
done this
one minute. Let me just apologize for my mistake, and then now you can help to, now you're going to be translating?
Correct.
All right, so so if you could translate this, let me welcome her and thank her for her participation in this process.
What is her name again? I'm sorry.
What is my name?
Her name. Nydia.
Oh, so you don't know her? You
No,
just,
I
tra-
don't
oh,
know her.
okay, all
I'm
right.
just an interpreter.
Okay, thank you.
Ok, Nidia le dan la bienvenida y le están dando las gracias por poder participar esta noche en esta reunión.
Uh, Good evening. You're interpreting for me? I apologize. I speak English very well. I'm not sure where the confusion came.
Okay. Okay, so you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I can start?
You can start, but let me just, I don't know if you heard me, just welcome to this process. We appreciate your input, and you have 3 minutes to begin. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Nidia Benitez, and I'm a parent of an RCSD student. I would like to address a national emergency as declared by the U.S. Surgeon and several pediatric organizations, and that is the need for mental health resources in our inner city schools as opposed to resorting to the chronic overuse of suspensions as a course of action in our district. We as parents, teachers, board members, and members of our community are flawed individuals who are bombarded by our daily lives. But this does not excuse us or gives us a pass to overlook the needs of our students' mental health. The additional stressors that many of our RCSD students face, ranging from inadequate health care, coming from low-income families, violence in our community, and homelessness, to name a few, add to the challenges of our youth face when they are penalized because we failed to provide them with the resources to manage their mental health. Their only job as students should be to focus on their education. How can we expect our children to perform well in school when we don't have the teachers trained in mental health? How can we expect our children to perform well under stress when we don't have healthy mechanisms to help them cope implemented into our curriculum to teach our youth how to manage their minds and emotions and talk about their feelings? A parent poll by the Children's Agenda shows that 42% of parents stated at least one of their children has struggled with emotional or mental health since returning to in-person schooling. By creating a safe environment where our youth can safely express their feelings and emotions as opposed to suppressing them, which will ultimately come out in negative ways such as depression, in-school fights, and even suicide, among other things, will not only lower the suspension rate, but will change the school-to-prison pipeline narrative. If we choose to ignore the ramifications that stem from not investing in good mental health hygiene, we can always turn to the great African proverb to remind us that the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Please understand, this is not a them issue, this is an us issue. So let us do right by our youth and invest in holistic mental health restorative services in our schools as a way of being proactive and not reactive, because our future heavily depends on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Benitez. The next speaker is Delvith Garcia, and this parent is in the room?
Ms. Garcia was scheduled to speak in person. She is not here at this time.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the next speaker, Chrissy Miller, who is in person. Thank you for participating in this process. We appreciate it. Appreciate all the feedback.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller,
My
you'll
name
have
is
3
Chrissy
minutes.
Miller.
3 minutes.
My name is Chrissy Miller. I am a parent of a 9-year-old student that goes to 29 school. He has autism. And my concern is by speaking for the special ed, we do not have a lot of programs for our children. And to me, that's unacceptable. I think we need to have more programs for our children because of, one, when they graduate out of 6th grade, they only had 2 options to pick from. And that's not good. That's not good at all for our kids. And I just want to see more support for our kids. One, I want to see more support for our parents, too. I want to see more support for our staff, that they truly need all the support with our children in our schools. Then three, I would like to see more classroom settings in the schools. with 612, 614, and whoever else on the IEPs, that state on the IEPs. I want to see more of that in the class, in the schools. We don't have a lot of options, and to me as a parent, if I don't have the option for my child, I'm out. So I want to stay in the district with my child where I know he's in a great program, and I want to keep it in that school where he's at. And I want to see it in not just his school, but in all the schools in the Rochester City School District to make it happen for our babies, because they are suffering behind this, not us. And we need to make it better for our babies. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much, Ms. Miller. The next speaker is Diane Miller. Oh, I'm getting Ms. Chrissy's name mixed up with, Diane Tanner, my apologies. She's in the Zoom room. Ms. Tanner, welcome. Ms. Tanner, are you there? Yep.
Yes, my name is Diane Tanner.
Welcome, Ms. Tanner. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite. I know I just have 3 minutes and everything. And I'm going to be talking about the mental health, the publication of Behavior and Mental Health Community Resource Guide, the school-based health centers, the ECHO program, mental health referral program, potential mental health clinics. The solution, the compensation, motivations, and mental health support are needed in every school in the district. Progress toward this goal can be made by expanding the number of satellite mental health clinics located in schools, making telehealth available to all students for behavior and mental health needs, investing $10 million more in restorative practice, social emotional learning, and mindfulness, investing $5 million more for help zones, investing $5 million in addition to mental health and stress reduction supports, implement preventive practices such as peace circles led by trained staff, parents, and students in all schools. To the greatest extent possible, the radical and ethical background of Rochester City School staff, providing these services to reflect the students with whom they are working, implementing the above using a radical equity lens. We have to be willing to do things differently. Lives are being lost. I am representing grand and great grand Rochester, the Children's Agenda, BIPOC Peak. We really need to step up and have our schools available for our kids that's going through so much trauma. It's not about COVID anymore. It's about the violence and everything that they're facing each and every day. And I know us as a community and as a school as a whole, we're able to do these things for our children. So I am really asking the Rochester City School District to look into having these programs in all the schools for mental health, because we really need it. And I do appreciate you giving me the time to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. We appreciate all of your input. Thank you so very much. The next speaker is Angelica Perez Delgado, who I believe is in person. Ms. Delgado? All right, thank you. We'll go to the next speaker, who's on Zoom, Eamon Scallon. All right, thank you. He was here? Okay. Amon, how do you pronounce his name? Amon? Mr. Scanlon, are you here?
He's connecting to audio.
All right, we'll go to the next speaker and we'll come back to him. Shannon Cooper. Yeah, okay. Well, for the person who said that he's out of the room, do we know how long he's going to be?
Honestly,
all right. All right. All right, so we're going to conclude this public hearing. We want to thank everybody for their participation. Just know that we have constrained resources and, priorities for an entire district, for all of our schools. And so we will certainly take everything that's been said in advisement and in our decisions as we move forward in deliberating this budget. So thank you all so very much for coming out, and we so appreciate your input. Thank you very much. And this ends this public hearing. Thank you.